fact that that there's this general perception that it's settled science is actually really damaging the science. I think the question of whether it's settled is obvious in the sense that there have been vaccines that have been withdrawn. Like there was a time where we thought that they were good, and then they weren't. And that's how science is supposed to work. We're just always looking for what the best data is. But I think in this context, we're in a situation where we're starting to not necessarily trust that the science is really ongoing. There's the financial incentive that we've talked about not having liability, but then also, I wonder if I feel under pressure from my medical board about what is an appropriate exemption or not, what is a researcher feeling like when they are depending on pharmaceutical companies for their funding, if they come out with the wrong answer on a vaccine. And I think I'll just end with a concrete example. There's something called the Cochrane Collaboration, which is a group that reviews all sorts of medical things, whether it's particular treatments or diseases and how they work, and it's something that a lot of physicians really rely on to sort of give an overarching summary of what's going on in a particular field. And my interest in this really was piqued by their assessment of the flu vaccine. Yeah. And so over the years, they update them from time to time. They had done 3 separate reviews of the flu vaccine. And each time they said, well, it doesn't really seem to overall help much as far as deaths, but the data is still not really great. And so we would really to be able to assess this properly, we need more data. And so they said this 3 times in a row, and finally this last time, which you may know, but it was just a few years ago, this last time they said they put a hold on having further updates because they said, although there's a huge dearth of data to know whether or not this is working, there's no new studies happening. Mm-hmm. And so there's sort of this idea that the science is settled, which is an unscientific concept, mm-hmm. is really impacting our ability to continue to do the science and make sure that these things are safe. And so that somebody like me who really believes in vaccines and the life-saving ability of them can say with confidence that the safety studies are good.
That's great. So, from my perspective on the science, there's a quote that I love that says, you can only live life and play, but you can only understand life and rewind. And if we rewind a little bit, in the 1950s, doctors and researchers were telling us how safe smoking was.
Yep.
And if we rewind back to 2014, we would see that there was a large pharmaceutical company that was telling us that the problem with their antidepressant medication only affected those who were younger than 24. When it came out that the data clearly showed that it was under 65, and they held that side effect back for years. Now, they were taken to court, they were found guilty, they had to pay a penalty for that. The science also is very swayed, as we know, by what people want to show. There's a medication you may have heard of, it's called a statin. Right? There's a lot of push for statins right now. And I don't want to say anything negative about this because, again, this should be your choice. But if we're really going to take a look at the science, then we would have to take a look at the fact that a 5-year benefit for being on a statin, the best statin in the best situation, is about 3% benefit for reducing your risk of heart attack and stroke. 3%. Now, the thing that didn't get funded, but eventually did, which I think is neat, because this is where I get excited, is that if you change your lifestyle, if you decide to really stop doing the things that hurt your body, which is not a medication, it's lifestyle, your reduction in risk